Focus is not something that appears when circumstances are perfect. It is a choice that must be made repeatedly, often in moments when distraction feels easier than discipline. Every day begins with a decision about where attention will be placed, and that decision quietly shapes outcomes long before results are visible. The mind naturally drifts toward comfort, novelty, and noise. So choosing focus requires intention rather than reliance on motivation. Daily focus means recognizing that attention is a limited resource. Once it is spent, it cannot be recovered, only replaced with another day's supply. When attention is scattered across unnecessary conversations, endless scrolling, and emotional reactions, progress becomes fragmented. Choosing focus is choosing to protect that resource so it can be invested in actions that actually move life forward. The decision to focus daily also means accepting that not everything deserves a response. Many distractions disguise themselves as urgency, demanding immediate attention while offering no long-term value. Focus requires the discipline to pause, evaluate, and decide what truly aligns with personal goals instead of reacting to whatever is loudest in the moment. Consistency and focus builds momentum over time. Small, repeated decisions to concentrate on meaningful work compound into significant change. While a single day of focus may not feel transformative, the accumulation of focused days reshapes habits, strengthens self-trust, and creates a sense of internal stability that distractions cannot shake. Daily focus requires boundaries, both internal and external. Internally, it means managing thoughts that wander toward doubt, comparison, or impatience. Externally, it means limiting access to environments, people, and information that dilute concentration. These boundaries are not acts of isolation, but acts of respect for one's direction. Choosing focus each day also involves clarity about priorities. When priorities are vague, attention scatters easily. Clear priorities act as a filter, allowing only what supports growth to pass through. This clarity simplifies decisions and reduces mental fatigue, making it easier to stay committed even when energy is low. Focus is strengthened through action, not contemplation alone. Each time attention is deliberately directed toward a task and followed through despite discomfort, focus becomes a trained skill rather than a fragile state. Over time, this skill develops resilience, making it easier to return to focus even after moments of distraction. There will always be reasons to delay focus until tomorrow, next week, or after circumstances improve. Daily focus rejects that delay and commits to progress within current conditions. It accepts imperfection and works anyway, understanding that waiting for ideal moments only postpones growth. The practice of daily focus also reshapes identity. When someone consistently chooses focused action, they begin to see themselves as disciplined and reliable. This self-perception reinforces future decisions, creating a cycle where focus supports confidence and confidence strengthens focus. Each day offers a fresh opportunity to decide again. Focus is not maintained by past success or loss because of past failure. It exists only in the present choice. Every morning, every hour, attention can be redirected, reclaimed, and aligned with what truly matters. Silence is often misunderstood as passivity, but in reality, it is a deliberate position of strength. Choosing silence means choosing control over impulse, emotion, and reaction. It creates space between stimulus and response, allowing thought to replace instinct and strategy to replace noise. In that space, clarity grows and unnecessary conflict loses its power. Strategic silence preserves energy that would otherwise be wasted on explanation and defense. Every time words are used to justify intentions or argue perspectives, focus is pulled away from execution. Silence redirects that energy back into action, where real progress is made and results are formed without the need for persuasion. When silence is practiced intentionally, it becomes a shield for vision. Early ideas and developing plans are fragile, easily influenced by doubt and external opinion. Keeping them unspoken protects them from premature criticism and allows them to mature through work rather than debate. Silence gives ideas time to strengthen before they are exposed. Silence also sharpens observation. When speaking less, awareness increases. Patterns become visible, motives are revealed, and Opportunities that are usually missed begin to stand out. Listening more than speaking provides insight that cannot be gained through constant expression and reaction. In moments of challenge or opposition, silence prevents escalation. It denies distractions the attention they seek and removes fuel from unnecessary tension. By not responding immediately, emotional control is maintained and decisions remain aligned with long-term goals rather than short-term satisfaction. Strategic silence builds authority without effort. People who speak less but act consistently create a presence that commands respect. Their words, when finally used, carry weight because they are supported by evidence rather than promises. Silence allows actions to establish credibility long before explanations are required. Silence creates momentum by eliminating delay. Time spent talking about what will be done is replaced by time spent doing it. Progress accelerates because energy is not diluted through repeated discussion. Movement happens quietly, steadily, and with purpose. There is also freedom in silence. It releases the need for validation and approval from others. When silence replaces the urge to be understood, independence grows. Decisions are guided by internal standards rather than external reactions, strengthening confidence and self-trust. Silence refines discipline. Resisting the impulse to announce plans or react to opinions requires self-control. That self-control transfers into other areas, reinforcing consistency and focus. Over time, silence becomes a habit that supports long-term execution. Strategic silence is not withdrawal from the world, but alignment with intention. It is the choice to let outcomes communicate instead of words, to let progress reveal direction, and to let growth unfold without interference. Validation is often sought as reassurance, a signal that effort is being noticed and approved. Yet dependence on validation creates hesitation because actions become tied to external reactions rather than internal commitment. When results take the place of validation, movement becomes freer and decisions are made based on purpose instead of applause. Results speak in a language that cannot be argued with. Opinions fade when evidence appears and doubt loses its influence when progress is visible. Instead of trying to convince others of capability or intent, consistent outcomes quietly establish credibility without explanation. Seeking validation slows momentum. Waiting for encouragement, recognition, or agreement introduces pauses that interrupt flow. When focus shifts to producing results, those pauses disappear. Action becomes continuous, driven by responsibility rather than reassurance. Results also eliminate the need for comparison. Validation often comes from measuring oneself against others, but outcomes are personal and specific. When attention is placed on what is being built, comparison loses relevance, and energy stays directed toward improvement rather than competition. There is a deep confidence that develops from results. Unlike validation, which fluctuates with opinions and moods, results provide stable proof of progress. Each completed task reinforces self-trust, creating a foundation of confidence that does not depend on external response. Replacing validation with results strengthens resilience. Criticism carries less weight when progress is evident, and setbacks are approached as adjustments rather than personal failures. Results shift focus from how things are perceived to how they function and improve. Results also refine standards. When outcomes are the measure, excuses lose their appeal. Performance becomes the benchmark, and accountability increases. This clarity encourages consistent effort, even when no one is watching or acknowledging the work. The habit of producing results simplifies communication. Words become minimal because evidence is sufficient. Achievements answer questions before they are asked, removing the need for justification or defense. As results accumulate, influence grows naturally. People respond to what is proven, not what is promised. Trust is built through demonstration rather than declaration, creating opportunities that validation alone can never produce. Choosing results over validation shifts identity. Action defines self-image more strongly than approval, and progress becomes the source of satisfaction rather than recognition. Emotion is temporary, shifting with mood, circumstances, and external influence. Discipline, by contrast, is stable and reliable, providing structure when feelings are inconsistent. Choosing discipline over emotion means committing to action regardless of how one feels in the moment, understanding that progress depends on consistency rather than motivation. When emotion leads, decisions are reactive. Actions change based on excitement, fear, or frustration, creating irregular effort and unpredictable outcomes. Discipline introduces order, allowing actions to follow a predetermined standard instead of fluctuating feelings, which keeps progress steady even during uncertainty. Discipline creates freedom by removing the need to negotiate with oneself. When routines and standards are established, energy is no longer spent deciding whether to act. The decision has already been made and execution becomes automatic, reducing resistance and hesitation. Emotions often exaggerate obstacles, making challenges appear larger than they are. Discipline cuts through this distortion by focusing on the task rather than the feeling associated with it. By acting despite discomfort, momentum is built, and emotional resistance gradually weakens. Consistent discipline strengthens identity. Each disciplined action reinforces the belief that commitments will be honored regardless of emotional state. This self-trust becomes a powerful motivator, encouraging continued effort even when results are not immediately visible. Choosing discipline over emotion also stabilizes performance. While emotions rise and fall, disciplined habits ensure that effort remains constant. This stability compounds over time, producing outcomes that emotional bursts of motivation cannot sustain. Discipline trains the mind to prioritize long-term outcome. ES over short-term relief. Emotional decisions often seek immediate comfort, while discipline accepts temporary discomfort for future gain. This shift in perspective aligns actions with lasting growth rather than momentary satisfaction. Over time, discipline reshapes emotional responses. As disciplined action becomes habitual, emotions begin to follow behavior rather than dictate it. Confidence grows, anxiety lessens, and resistance diminishes as progress becomes predictable. Discipline also reduces regret. Actions taken consistently, even when difficult, prevent the accumulation of missed opportunities and unfulfilled intentions. This creates a sense of peace that emotional impulsiveness cannot provide. By choosing discipline repeatedly, action becomes independent of mood and progress continues regardless of internal fluctuations. Explanation often feels productive, but it can become a substitute for action. Talking about intentions, plans, and possibilities creates the illusion of progress while delaying the work that actually produces change. Execution cuts through this illusion by turning ideas into tangible movement. When energy is spent explaining, it is no longer available for doing. Each explanation invites opinions, questions, and doubts that slow momentum. Execution avoids this friction by focusing attention on tasks that move objectives forward instead of conversations that lead nowhere. Execution creates clarity that explanation cannot. Ideas become refined only when tested through action. What seems perfect in discussion often reveals flaws in practice, and those flaws provide the feedback necessary for improvement. Action becomes the teacher that explanation can never replace. Explanations seek understanding, but execution creates evidence. Evidence carries weight because it is visible and measurable. Results eliminate the need for persuasion, allowing outcomes to communicate direction and capability without words. The habit of explaining often stems from the desire to be seen as prepared or intelligent. Execution replaces that desire with responsibility. It shifts focus from image to impact, prioritizing progress over perception. Execution accelerates learning. Mistakes made in action provide immediate insight, while prolonged explanation delays exposure to reality. Each step taken refines skill and judgment, creating growth that discussion alone cannot produce. When execution becomes the priority, confidence increases naturally. Confidence built through action is stable because it is rooted in experience rather than approval. Each completed task reinforces trust in one's ability to follow through. Explanation invites delay by creating room for overthinking. Execution simplifies decisions by narrowing focus to the next actionable step. This simplicity reduces mental overload and encourages consistent forward movement. Execution also builds discipline. Acting repeatedly, even without perfect clarity, strengthens the habit of follow-through. Over time, this habit becomes a defining trait that separates progress from stagnation. Choosing execution consistently transforms intention into reality and keeps momentum alive regardless of uncertainty. Authority is often mistaken for position, title, or recognition, but true authority begins internally. Self-mastery forms the foundation of influence because it demonstrates control over thoughts, emotions, habits, and actions. When someone governs themselves effectively, their presence naturally carries weight without the need for assertion. Self-mastery builds consistency, and consistency builds trust. People observe patterns more than promises, and disciplined behavior over time signals reliability. This reliability becomes a quiet form of authority that does not need reinforcement through words or status. Emotional control is a central aspect of self-mastery. When reactions are measured and intentional, decisions remain aligned with purpose rather than impulse. This steadiness creates confidence in others, as calm and clarity in pressure-filled moments reveal inner strength. Self-mastery also sharpens focus. The ability to prioritize long-term goals over short-term distractions reflects discipline and vision. This clarity attracts respect because it shows direction, and direction suggests leadership even without formal acknowledgement. Authority grows when actions align with values. Self-mastery ensures that behavior is not swayed by convenience or external pressure. This alignment creates integrity, and integrity strengthens influence because it removes doubt about intent. Mastery over time and effort reinforces credibility. When commitments are honored and work is completed consistently, capability becomes evident. This evidence establishes authority more effectively than any declaration of competence. Self-mastery reduces dependence on validation. Decisions are guided by internal standards rather than external approval. This independence signals confidence and self-assurance, qualities that naturally draw respect and attention. Authority also emerges from restraint. Knowing when not to act, not to speak, or not to react reflects maturity and control. This restraint amplifies presence, making actions and words more impactful when they are finally used. Self-mastery cultivates resilience. Challenges are met with persistence rather than frustration, and setbacks become adjustments instead of excuses. This resilience demonstrates strength that others recognize and follow. Through continuous self-mastery, influence grows organically, shaping authority that is sustained by discipline rather than demanded through force.